Every night she demands a whole side of beef, a leg of lamb, and a chicken, which are laid out on the dining room table like a medieval banquet. It's a feast that would make Henry VIII proud. But often, there's just her and her girls being Eugenie, and most of it is wasted, and there's no attempt to keep it cold so they can eat it the next day. It just sits there all night, and the next day, it's thrown away. Sometimes, the meals would go virtually untouched, while the Duchess and her daughters munched away at large bags of kettle crisps. I can't help but laugh. It's so wild. We have a whole half of beef on the table, a leg of lamb, and a chicken. Who wants a bag of crisps? I feel like a little potato chip right now would really just hit the spot. Girls, bags all around. Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Denise. We're going to keep going in Entitled. Now, last time we read this book, Sarah Ferguson had just been caught by the News of the World in a sting operation where she was attempting to sell access to Prince Andrew for £500,000. £500,000 is a lot of money, but she had access to a lot of money in legitimate ways. I mean, selling the family name and constantly putting her name on dishes and tea towels and interviews. I don't know that I would say that that is a respectable way to make money, but it was a legal way to make money. Now she's over there doing under-the-table deals for £500,000, which is shocking to me that she would be willing to do that when she had lots of opportunities to make equal sums of money doing things that weren't going to get her into hot water. But she seems to be completely unable to preserve her dignity. It seems to me that if Sarah had the option to do something that would be helpful to her and do something that would destroy her, she would choose the option that would destroy her. She has an unbelievable desire to just mess it all up. It's like she always wants to be caught doing the wrong thing. Well, now she has been caught, and she is developing this very defiant side of her personality. This sort of like, well, if you think that this was a problem, that sounds like a you issue. It sounds like you just like drama. It sounds like you just like to read tabloids. It sounds like you just like gossip. But it's like, oh, well, but also you were trying to sell access to a member of the royal family for £500,000. I mean, excuse me for noticing, like she wants to be able to do all this criminal behavior and act very foolishly. And the second you notice, well, it sounds like you're just a very shallow person. It sounds like you just like tabloidy things. But she's going to try to be very defiant in public, but in her personal life, she is crumbling, not surprisingly. Okay, so that's where we're picking up. And in this section, remember, we have entered the larger chapter entitled Trapped, but our subtitle today in this particular section is Greedy and Needy. Could any two words be more applicable? From France, the Duchess flew to Los Angeles to accept a Variety Club award honoring her work for children's charities, before going on to promote her Helping Hand series of books at Book Expo America. Sales were certainly helped by the scandal. And she defiantly claimed, "The bottom line is, I am a foghorn for silent whispers." What? "I am a children's book author. I am Sarah Ferguson. I am a mum, and I am very proud of that." So, how are you going to come at me with any arguments over that? Well, Sarah, what exactly is a foghorn for silent whispers in this context? What does that even mean? I mean, like, with all of my powers of sympathy, and as I try to imagine what it is to be you, Sarah, I'm really trying to put myself in your shoes. I'm trying to understand how the best descriptor of your scenario is that you are a foghorn for silent whispers. And that the big cherry on top of this personal statement is that you are Sarah Ferguson. Well, we know that. That's our problem, Sarah. You are Sarah Ferguson, and yet you continue to be bodaciously out of control. What are you talking about? Like, don't tell me your name. I know it. Do you know your name? Do you know who you are? Do you know how you should be carrying yourself in the world? And then to top it all off with, I'm a mom and very proud of it. Yeah. Why are you acting like this? You're a mom. Shouldn't you be giving a better example to the kids? Nothing she said in this personal statement was supposed to fill me with a lot of assurance about, that's right. Wait a second, she's just made a point. I don't understand any of it. The truth was rather different from this proud statement. A friend admitted she's jet-lagged, confused, in a very fragile state. She hasn't a clue where she goes from here. She really is at her lowest ebb. We can imagine. The episode had put paid to all her work in trying to restore her reputation since her divorce. Her friend and long-term PR spokeswoman Kate Waddington resigned, though Belle Pottinger were happy to step into the breach pro bono. It had also jeopardized Ferguson's earning capacity. A talk in Virginia for which she was to be paid £37,000 was cancelled. ITV axed plans for a third series with the Duchess looking at her daily life. It was so foolish. Prince Edward's wife had been caught on tape by Muhammad 9 years earlier, bragging that her PR business benefited from her royal connections. But in the eyes of many, Sarah had been an accident waiting to happen. As one friend asked to sum her up said, in a word, greedy. If you want 2 words, greedy and needy. She lost the plot a long time ago. Princess Margaret had once written to the Duchess, "You have done more to bring shame on the royal family than could have ever been imagined. Not once have you hung your head in embarrassment, even for a minute. Clearly, you have never considered the damage you are doing us all. How dare you discredit us?" Don't get in Margaret's way. That's all I'm going to say. What was to be done with the Duchess? One suggested solution was for her to be exiled to her mother's ranch in Argentina. Almost 2 decades on from Princess Margaret's comments, she continued to pose a problem for the House of Windsor. But as the journalist Christopher Wilson put it, Fergie knew where the bodies were buried. He speculated that further revelations were yet to surface regarding Andrew's so-called, quote, bachelor lifestyle. The Duchess possessed many other secrets which would not benefit the House of Windsor by the retelling. It was this power that had allowed her to remain firmly within the embrace of the royal family. You know how we fix that? We just make her seem like she's crazy, because she's doing a great job of that on her own. If we don't want people to believe what she's saying, go on a campaign to make her seem like she is absolutely batshit. You know what I'm saying? Don't allow people to believe the things she's going to say about the family, because Sarah's over there shooting herself in the foot repeatedly. Give her a gun, she'll shoot both feet and ask for a reload. Sarah is not capable of making good decisions. So if she wants to come out and tell you some wild, outlandish stories about the royal family, then you just be like, we had to exile her because she is crazy. Let her tell her tales. Doesn't matter if they're true. She is not a reputable sort of person. Let her go on Oprah. Tell every single thing she's ever heard of. Let her tell every single secret. Just let her blab. And then highlight every single time she was a bimbo, a crazy person, made all kinds of wild, outlandish mistakes. And see how, there might be some people who believe her. So what? Those people are crazy too. Those people just like some wild conspiracy. I mean, it's easy to discredit people. Am I saying this is the way we need to go through life, just in this crazy information war where we're all, gaslighting each other? No. But I'm just saying, to keep somebody like this in the family who's going to keep burning you over and over and over again, let them go out and burn themselves, okay? Let them go out and just do their own thing without any benefit. Believe me, she will burn herself to the ground. The reason she's still around making all these mistakes is because the palace propped her up for years financially, covering her mistakes, paying off her creditors and all of this. Let her burn herself to the ground. She won't be a problem for you long, But by legitimizing her existence, by constantly giving her help behind the scenes, you've let this leech live on and on and on. Let her go to America, try to figure it out for herself. She won't be anybody's problem, She would have lived a much smaller life if she hadn't been able to financially just run all over the world, making mistakes all over the place. You know what I'm saying? I just don't understand who's running the show at the palace. Can I have a job, please? I can help you guys. All right, anyway. Andrew's own activities now came under much more rigorous scrutiny. Why so many private visits to Kazakhstan? Did the gift of $1 million home in Abu Dhabi really square with his activities promoting British trade? Had the purchase of Sunninghill Park for an inflated price by a foreign buyer place him under any form of obligation? Questions from the media to the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills, and to UK Trade and Investment were, according to one paper, met with evasion, buck-passing, and at times, barely veiled panic. When asked if any of the Whitehall departments with responsibility for the Duke had investigated his ex-wife's claims that she could secure access to Britain's special representative in return for cash, UKTI refused to reply, and then said it was a matter for Buckingham Palace. Well, they'll ham-handedly deal with it, I'm sure. Questions began to be asked about the appointment after UKTI claimed his role is independent of UK trade and investment, and is neither a paid position nor a formal UKTI board appointment. This rather contradicted the statement on Andrew's appointment. His Royal Highness will undertake activities in support of BTI's trade and investment objectives, which are set by ministers with the support of the board. The board will therefore maintain a close interest in HRH's activities. It appeared the Duke's office was staffed by royal employees, with a single Foreign Office official as representative of the government. His visits were cleared by the Royal Visits Committee, but no one would say who sat on the committee, or the criteria that determined where Andrew was sent. He's just a playboy. He literally is a playboy hiding behind UKTI. This should have made people outraged, especially because of the way he's spending money. And there are people in the government who are very angry and who want answers. His expenses were covered by UKTI, but other government departments picked up travel, staffing, security, and other bills. The reticence of Whitehall to explain what the Duke actually did worried Christopher Wilson, who criticized the lack of transparency about the nature of Andrew's job and the seemingly blithe disregard for revealing the facts. One person involved in the sting, which revealed Fergie's attempt to make money out of the introductions to her husband, says he believes that it has happened before. The scandal provided new opportunities for the Duchess, not least to plead the paucity of her divorce settlement, which she claimed had led to her financial difficulties. There were discussions about going on Donald Trump's The Apprentice, and she appeared in confessional mode on Oprah, referring to herself in third person and saying she needed the money for a friend in need. But as one friend claimed, I think she secretly loves the attention. You see her leaving her hotel with a big smile. She hasn't had this much publicity since she was married to Prince Andrew. Her claims that she had been given only £15,000 in the divorce settlement angered courtiers, who pointed out that she had received a settlement of $3 million, which had included £500,000 to buy a house, a $1.5 million trust fund for her daughters, and £350,000 in cash, half of which was used to pay Susan Barante's debts, and a monthly allowance that was half Andrew's naval pay. According to one official, she was treated extremely generously, and she has now behaved appallingly. How are you going to trot your little behind out there and tell the world, I only got £15,000 from the royal family? How am I supposed to bring my daughters up in any kind of style that would be appropriate to their station? How am I supposed to exist on £15,000? Who in their blessed mind would have believed that the royal family only meted her out £15,000? I mean, come on. They're not monsters, although they would have been in their right to give you $0 for the way you treated them. The royal family found themselves between a rock and a hard place, which the Duchess knew. As one source suggested, their theory is that it's better to keep Sarah close than let her loose to do even more damage. At the end of the day, she is still being Eugenie's mother, and they can't just abandon her. Can't they? She's a grown adult. I think that's the thing. I mean, Beatrice and Eugenie are part of the royal family by blood. But Sarah, you decided to reject your installation in this family. You wanted to act like a fool. You divorced the member of the royal family that had brought you in. So if that's the case, you can't still expect that they're going to hold you up. In what other family in the entire world would the ex-wife still be like, hey, how come my husband's family's not inviting me to Christmas and stuff? Hey, you guys, how come they're not still, sending me fat checks? Wait a second. But I had the kids, and the kids belong to a rich family. So when they come to my house, it needs to feel rich. Wait a second, you guys. Will you even believe that my ex-husband isn't, paying for my life? Can you even? Wait a second, you guys. Let me just tell you right now. We got divorced, 20 years ago, and he still is acting weird when I ask for extra cash. And his mom is kind of really mean about it. Can you believe that? It's Sarah, wake up. The fact that she'd even go around on Oprah and complain that she hadn't gotten enough money and all this, it's what? Explain to me what they owe you. You were cheating on him, he was cheating on you. Under what divorce settlement would he owe you half of everything he ever had? I know it's complicated, but at a certain point, when they've given you your money and they are paying for the daughter's security and everything, and when they're with him, they can have the lifestyle that his family affords. What makes you think that you are in a position to demand that when they're in your house, they must also feel like royalty? Well, they would have if you'd stayed married. Somebody needed to, like, take her by the shoulders, sit her down in a chair, and be like, let me talk real facts to you. Did anybody ever do that to her? I mean, not like she would have listened, though. They needed to cut her off financially. I mean, at the end of the day, why they drag their feet like this? I want to know, are they paying for this lady even to this day? I guess we'll find out. Okay, the debts are mounting up. Not surprisingly, every single time they bail this lady out, it's like, how can I dig myself even further into debt? The book says that there were many more humiliations to come, with revelations in the papers that Sarah had some 200 debtors, and her debts ranged from $2 million to $4 million. An aide had run up $8,000 on his personal credit card, paying for things on her behalf. She owed £5,000 to a London-based complementary medicine practitioner and £65,000 to a personal trainer whom she kept on permanent standby, but she'd only used twice in the previous year. But I'm just going to pay £65,000 to that person, in case I need him. The sheer unacceptable waste of money that this lady is just running through the world, paying for this, paying for that. Here, I'll give you a little. I'm going to send you this present in the mail. Yet, meanwhile, 200 debtors. It's almost like she liked to feel in debt. She's getting something out of this. Is it a risk feeling? Is it a feeling of like, does she like to always feel anxious? Because there are people who get addicted to that feeling. Always owing somebody something, like constantly being in debt. Like she has taught herself that feels good. Okay. The book goes on to say that she had run up a bill of £51,000 at Selfridges, making purchases through her old school friend, the store's senior personal shopper. The previous Christmas, 2 members of staff had spent nearly a day in the VIP section, choosing hundreds of expensive items for a Christmas party, and according to one source, someone was dispatched every 3 or 4 days to pick up tights, face creams, and expensive hair products. A newsagent had refused to supply her after an unpaid bill of £500. Other creditors included a local butcher, dry cleaner, and car hire firm. The BP card that was used at local petrol stations was eventually confiscated because of unpaid bills. She had racked up a £6,500 bill using the Queen's special mail service on an almost daily basis, sending out hundreds of letters, photographs, and gifts, which included silver letter openers, money clips, and cufflinks. Trinkets. Everyone gets trinkets. I just can't stop sending trinkets. She has a spending problem. I mean, she truly... It's not even a question at this point. This is not, insightful. It's just people who constantly buy little trinkets and then always want to, be giving, little gifts and little nifty gifties all the time out to everybody. It's almost like Eve being like, here, bite the apple, Adam. It's like, I have a problem. Please join me in it. There always has to be well, I had to buy this. It was for so-and-so. So-and-so doesn't need a letter opener, okay? So-and-so's doing just fine without that money clip. Part of the problem was the sheer wastage, as I've mentioned. In May 2009, she had signed a year's lease on a £3 million house on the Wentworth estate at £8,000 a month. After the owners decided to move back sooner than expected, but hold her to 6 months' payment, she resolved not to move in, staying with Andrew at Royal Lodge. The result was £50,000 on a house she never lived in. See, that is crazy. It's crazy that you would be renting an apartment and then the homeowners say, actually, we're coming back, but you still need to pay us rent. Get a lawyer. What? No, I'm staying here. Sorry you guys wanted to move back, but I'm not going to pay you rent if I don't get to live there. But she's just fiddly. I guess I'll just pay them the money and I don't want to ask any questions. It's not like she didn't know about lawyers. It's not like she didn't have somebody to speak on her behalf. If the palace this is the time to call the palace and be like, hey, wait a second, these people are screwing me over. I've signed a lease and now they're coming back, but I still have to pay the rent. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. How did she let that happen? But whatever. I don't want to ask any too many questions. That's gonna get weird. Money. I don't. Just pay them the money. The money I don't have. At this point, the Duke and his deputy private secretary, Amanda Thirsk, stepped in and assessed the Duchess's overheads. 12 staff were made redundant, some of whom hadn't been paid for up to 6 months. They included Colin Tubbett, her driver for 10 years who had previously driven for Princess Diana, her long-standing dresser, Jackie McLeod, who had previously worked for the Kents, Sally Fish, her right-hand woman for 15 years, and assistants Helen Jones, Amanda Lewis, and Zanowska Mowat, granddaughter of Princess Alexandra and classmate of Princess Eugenie. Many received only the statutory minimum redundancy pay and were asked to work out their notice for free. Andrew, or more likely his mother, paid off many of the debts. Creditors of Hartmore were paid 25% of the money they were owed. 2 hire cars were returned, attempts were made to sell the Duchess's Mini Cooper S, and an evaluation was sought on the £130,000 Bentley Continental Flying Spur, which had been lent to her. Sarah's reaction to crisis, as so often, was to go on vacation. First stop, Soto Grande. Then to a $1,500 a night 5-star Portuguese luxury spa resort, where she signed up for an 8-day, £3,000 weight loss and anti-aging program, which included her own personal trainer and face mesotherapy, involving various extracts being injected into the skin. You know, I already retain a personal trainer at about £65,000. I owe him a lot of money, but I think what would be really fun is if we went on holiday. Let's go to Soto Grande. There's a place I love, a little bit pricey, $1,500 a night, but whatever. And they have this great program. It's a weight loss program. We will need to pay £3,000 for that, but it has a personal trainer. I know I have a personal trainer. I know, but it's just more fun to work out somewhere that's, not home. It might be fun to go to Soto Grande and, work out there. It would be different. I would definitely go if I had just paid £3,000, right? Well, I mean, I haven't used the guy that I paid £65,000 for. So I get what you're saying. Like, why would £3,000 matter when $65,000 doesn't seem to call me to work out? But it's just different, location. It'll be more fun. That's all I'm saying. What a nightmare. Can you imagine the rage and indignation if he just paid all her bills and then she hops off and goes and spends all this money for a personal trainer at some separate location, spending $1,500 a night? I would literally throw down. At what point are they going to be like, this lady is using us? There were 3 weeks on a billionaire's ranch in Connecticut and 2 weeks at a house lent by a friend in Montecito before going to stay with Lisa Marie Presley in Hawaii. From there to Malaga, then to stay with Richard Branson on Necker for his 60th birthday party. In August, she returned to Soto Grande for 3 weeks, before her 8th foreign jaunt of the summer, joining 180 guests at the 75th birthday party of hotel magnate Sol Kersner at an exclusive hotel in Sardinia. A sacked staff member reveals the greed and wastefulness that contributed to the Duchess's financial downfall. Every night. You guys, you aren't ready for this. You're not ready for this. I tell you, when I read it, my jaw dropped. Okay? The sheer wastefulness, the shocking waste of food. I can't even begin. I can't wrap my mind. Mental illness is the only way to describe what's going on with Sarah. She has no money, but listen to the way she wants the table spread every single night. Every night she demands a whole side of beef, a leg of lamb, and a chicken, which are laid out on the dining room table like a medieval banquet. It's a feast that would make Henry VIII proud. But often there's just her and her girls being Eugenie, and most of it is wasted, and there's no attempt to keep it cold so they can eat it the next day. It just sits there all night, and the next day, it's thrown away. Just the general slovenliness of leaving a whole half of beef on the table all night long. And nobody's like, you know what, why don't we take this home? We can take this home. If she's not going to eat it, let's not let it go to waste. Can the staff take it home? Can they feed their families with this half a side of beef every night? No one would ever have to go to the grocery store again. We'll just eat off of her table. The fact that all this food is going to waste and she doesn't have money, it's the perpetual panic that I would be in if I owed this much money and I was spending money knowing I had no way to pay it back. I would feel literally sick to my stomach. Just reading this makes me want to throw up. I cannot imagine purchasing food, laying it on the table, not eating it, and knowing I truly couldn't pay for it. I just want to dry heave thinking about it. Sometimes the meals would go virtually untouched, while the Duchess and her daughters munched away at large bags of Kettle Crisps. I can't help but laugh. It's so wild. We have a whole half of beef on the table, a leg of lamb, and a chicken. Who wants a bag of crisps? I feel like a little potato chip right now would really just hit the spot. Girls, bags all around. Oh, dinner's on the table, is it? Well, I think I've changed my mind. What about you girls? Crisps tonight? Okay. Just leave that there. We'll clean it up in the morning, or someone will. On holiday in Soda Grande, it was reported that she gave orders that a breakfast table was to be laid out for her at 3 different locations each morning so that she could have a choice. 1 breakfast, no. Let's waste more money since I don't have it. How about 3 breakfasts in 3 separate locations? Thank you, dear. She also required daily deliveries of ice cubes. She had them poured into her bath every afternoon so that she could immerse herself for a few minutes because she believed the practice helped her metabolism. During one holiday in Spain, she woke up at 2 p.m. and ordered a lavish party for her that day. A guest said she demanded the best DJ in the country and 1,000 candles to light the garden, and then she became fixated on getting a suckling pig. Sarah would regularly miss flights that were not refundable. According to one source, she thought nothing of arriving at an airport with 25 cases and paying between £800 and £4,000 in excess baggage. At least 5 of those cases were packed with toiletries and makeup, and another one would just be for clothes hangers. They won't have any of those where I'm going. Better pack a whole suitcase of clothes hangers, just in case. This is like the Joker who brought the ironing board. What is the matter with these two? Do they not know that the world's on the other side of that flight? Personal trainers, hairdressers, and Pilates instructors were paid hundreds of pounds an hour to wait for her to emerge for the day in the late afternoon. Meanwhile, her butler had to get in at 4:30 a.m. to put watercress on ice. Okay, so she's not going to emerge. She's not coming out of her room until what they say, 2 p.m.? I can't wake up any sooner than that. I've got to let that half a cow rot on the table before I ever get up. Why is she having people show up to her house when she knows she's not ready for them? She's a chaos demon. Who invites somebody over their house because I need to have my hair done? Also Pilates and personal trainer. Why do I have both of those? I don't know. But anyway, they all need to be there. I will not be there for 7 more hours, but just hang around, for the vibe. The book says that she would just breeze out of the Four Seasons and the Palace in New York as if she were too important to pay, said one source. There would often be large room service bills, but she got away with it more often than not. What? And then, to top it all off, she's over there penning all kinds of ratty novels, really thinking she's going to be the next big ladies' book writer. She's too busy to pay her bills, but not too busy to write this bodice ripper, Heartmore, commissioned by U.S. publisher St. Martin's Press 5 years previously and co-written with novelist Laura von Warmer, though for all her efforts it was turned down because it didn't have enough sex. And she faced paying back the £50,000 signature advance. She started working with a new collaborator on another version featuring a fiery redhead called Sarah, now entitled Wingfield. If there is anything I would like to read less, it would be a story about fiery redhead called Sarah, who we all know is fashioned after Sarah Ferguson, in some ratty book called Wingfield. Meanwhile, Bell Pottinger were fielding £50,000 worth of interview requests from TV, radio, newspapers, and magazines, and an offer from an Australian home security firm to advertise the risks of letting your guard down. Topical. A venture capitalist, John Moulton, a former insolvency specialist at Coopers & Lybrand, agreed to help her sort out her financial affairs. She preferred, however, to rely on a psychic, Mia Dolan, who told her that she would quickly overcome her money worries. She was right. On August 13th, Ferguson wrote in her diary, "Phew, we signed with OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network. We signed last night and it's going to be a whole new start." God, only an idiot would be like, hey man, this person over here has offered to help me sort my financial situation. Thank the Lord. God knows I can't get myself out of this. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with all the half sides of beef I have all over the house. But I don't think I'll go that way though. I mean, it would be nice for a professional to deal with my problems, but then he might have answers, and I don't want answers. I want continual chaos. I think I'm going to go see Mia Dolan. That psychic can help me out, right? My gosh, can you imagine? We have one more little section left. It's entitled Breaking Up with Jeffrey. None too soon, although we all know that it's all on the outside and not on the in. But let's go see what Andrew's doing, because Andrew is going to need to claim that he broke up with Jeffrey Epstein. What was his attempt? What did that look like? In August 2010, Epstein finished his sentence for procuring a child for prostitution. A secret plea bargain, on the grounds of his intelligence links, had saved him from more serious charges and allowed him to serve his term in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Stockade, under a work release program, permitting him to go to his office each day, taken by his personal driver, and he only had to sleep at the jail. The sheriff's office received $128,000 from Epstein's nonprofit foundation to cover extra expenses. For the year to August 2010, he had been on probation, enabling him to fly to his residences in New York, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and for the purposes of exercise, to walk around Palm Beach. Numerous young girls were abused during this period. But, thank God there's that cot at the jail, right? Because that all counts. Thank God we've got him at night in the jail. He can't cause any harm if he's sleeping on that jail cot, right? Now, I know we did let him fly all the way to the Virgin Islands. I know we let him go to New York. I know we've let him walk all over Palm Beach and find more girls to abuse. But he does come to the jail at night, so our asses are covered. At the beginning of December, Andrew was back in New York, staying at Epstein's townhouse. The literary agent John Brockman, also visiting, noticed a British guy in a suit with suspenders getting foot massages from two young, well-dressed Russian women. I realized that the recipient of Irina's foot massage was His Royal Highness Prince Andrew, the Duke of York. Also visiting was 17-year-old Caroline Kaufman, who had come for a modeling interview and claims that she was introduced to Andrew. In 2020, she would file a legal claim that she had been taken to the massage room and had been raped by Epstein. Kaufman's lawyer, Spencer Coven, pressed Andrew to volunteer a statement. The prince refused. On December 2nd, Epstein gave a dinner party for 15 people in honor of the prince. Now listen to this guest list. These people need to be shaken in their boots. Guests included the journalist and presenter Katie Couric, who brought along the American comedian and actress Chelsea Handler, the talk show host Charlie Rose, the former White House communications director George Stephanopoulos, and the film director Woody Allen and his wife Soon-Yi Previn. Now, we all are not at all surprised to find that Woody Allen had pulled up a table. Charlie Rose, also a big fat question mark. Chelsea Handler's disgusting pig, so no wonder. Katie Couric is just an absolute nightmare lately. And George Stephanopoulos was always a question mark. So, again, am I super surprised? Hardly. But also, these are like big name people. These are people you've heard of. All of them hobnobbing with Epstein. And you're going to try to tell me these people didn't know what they were doing? They were just over there because, Epstein invited me, so I, went. I didn't know. Yeah, I'm sure that that's sometimes true. I'm sure not everybody was aware. But at this point, he's been convicted and has spent some time in jail, though, marginally, for procuring a child for prostitution. And you're like, but you know what? I'm really hankering to go to that townhouse of his in New York and sit with that ugly prince from England. Nothing to be more fun than watching his neck swing back and forth. Anyway, tables were set up in a square in the living room, with guests eating lasagna out of shallow bowls. Couric remembered Epstein in jeans ripped at the knee, velvet loafers, and an air of studied insouciance, nursing a drink and holding court in front of a large fireplace. I had to look up insouciance because I didn't really know what that word meant. And the definition says that it means sort of an air of indifference. Go Katie Couric. Of course you're going to tell us that now. But you couldn't have told from all the pictures that you see of him that he was just kind of this person who was too cool for school all the time, acting like he was just above it all. Every single picture you see of him, you can see that that's how he is. But did you had to see that up close and personal? With Chelsea Handler in tow? Look at him in his studied insouciance, says Katie Couric, trying to use big words. So it makes her sound like she's more intelligent. She was just there for the journalistic aspect of it, She's so clever that she's going to use words you've never heard of before to describe what she saw because, see, it was all sort of an intellectual exercise, you understand. Please, Katie. You've become more and more repugnant as the years have gone by. Andrew always maintained the visit was to break off his personal and business relationship with Epstein because, at the time, I felt it was the honorable and right thing to do, and I fully admit that my judgment was probably colored by my tendency to be too honorable. But that's just the way it is. It's been so hard for me all my life being so honorable, It's really gotten in the way of my judgment. The irony of that statement is, wouldn't the honorable thing to do be to not join in league with the man who's just been in jail for child prostitution? For procuring a child for prostitution? Wouldn't the honorable thing there have been I wash my hands of this because I'm so honorable. I'm perturbed by the idea of a child being hurt. It feels dishonorable to me to sit and sup with one who has mingled with a child. That feels to me like what the honorable thing to do is. But, of course, he's just so honorable, he's got to break off a friendship in person. Even if that person is somebody who has hurt a child. Anyway, one of the Duke's former girlfriends said the real reason had been to make sure Epstein, quote, didn't have any dirt on him. he was reassured that no recordings existed. Well, of course, Epstein's not going to be like, all right, man, well, come clear with you. I got 75 different tapes of you with 75 different women, okay? You know, they're in this room, and here they all are labeled. But I'll do you a solid and pack these up away for you. You can burn them at your own leisure. Of course, Epstein's going to be like, no, you're good. Meanwhile, the clocks, the teddy bears, the chairs, the rugs, the mantle, the pictures, everything's watching him. There's cameras everywhere. Oh, man, you're good. No need to worry. And you're going to believe that? Anyway, it transpired that on the first day, Andrew was trying to obtain $200 million funding from a mysterious oil company, Aria Petroleum. Epstein forwarded the message to his private banker, Jess Stanley at JP Morgan, adding that Andrew wanted to represent the interests of an organization he called Kasanov, thought to refer to JP Morgan's Kasanov in China. All seemed to be going smoothly, but the greatest crisis of his life was about to break. On February 20th, 2011, the News of the World published a front-page article, Prince Andy and the Pedo, with a picture of Andrew taken the previous December strolling in Central Park with Jeffrey Epstein. The photographer Joe Donnelly, who had been staking out Epstein's mansion at 9 East 71st Street with freelance reporter Annette Witheridge and various of the paper's journalists, had finally struck lucky at lunchtime on December 4th, when Andrew and Epstein, with their protection officers, emerged through the front door to go for a walk in Central Park. There was a cluster of police protection officers with Andrew and Epstein, and I assume possibly Epstein's bodyguards, said Witheridge. They formed a sort of triangle behind them as they walked. The question is why, knowing the press were camped outside, did Epstein expose his guest to the media? We weren't hiding. You couldn't hide out there, Witheridge said. So yes, I'm sure we were used. Was it some sort of insurance policy by Epstein to show the world that Andrew was still under his control? What was the purpose of the visit? Andrew's later claims that it was to end the relationship sounded hollow. That could have been done without meeting and certainly without staying several days. It appeared one reason for the encounter was to persuade Epstein to pay off some of Sarah's debts, which had been under discussion for 9 months, and she admitted to receiving a first installment of £15,000. The money was used to pay one of the many debtors, her former assistant, Johnny O'Sullivan, who was claiming £78,000 in unpaid wages. Remember, that's the same reason that she said that she needed that £40,000 that had been given to her as a sort of deposit in the sting with News of the World. And they'd put the money in a computer bag and then she'd walked off with it, ostensibly to pay Johnny O'Sullivan. Johnny O'Sullivan, it's time for you to skedat because these people do not have any money to give you. And for you to keep coming and back, I need to be paid, I need to be paid. He must have been a real problem because nobody else is she over there too worried about getting money for. But Johnny O'Sullivan has managed to get her to try to take money from the sting operator. And now they're over there trying to get money from Epstein to pay Johnny O'Sullivan. You know, the palace could have learned how to be a thorn in her side in this same way. What tricks did Johnny O'Sullivan have? Because he's like the only person where she's scrambling trying to pay. Anyway, a mutual friend of Andrew and Epstein's has, however, claimed that I think Sarah has actually received hundreds of thousands of dollars from Epstein. Ferguson denies this, though, of course. Yeah, I'm sure that she didn't just get £15,000, but what were they trading for? You know, because it's not like Epstein is just over there with a heart of gold looking for any degenerate who needs a little cash to help them get through their hard times. Why in the world did Prince Andrew think that he could come to Epstein and say, will you pay Sarah's debts? In trade for what? So Sarah's been pushed under the bus because she's over there saying, I'll trade on my husband's name if you'll give me $500,000. I will give you access to him. Okay, well, they're all doing it. She just happened to be caught, and that's probably why she felt so bitter about it. What is Andrew trading? What does Andrew say he'll give Epstein? I mean, that's the question to be asked. I don't care. We all know he wasn't there to end the friendship. You could do that over the phone or just literally never call the guy again. Like, just ghost that man. He doesn't deserve your respect. But you stayed over there several nights, and there was some shady deal with the oil company for $200 million. Like, what the heck? And then you're over there being like, and also, could you pay my ex-wife's debts? If you're Jeffrey Epstein, what am I going to get out of this? You know, that's the question to be asked. The Duchess, who is known to have first visited Epstein with her daughters in 1998 and often stayed with him, admitted to a gigantic error of judgment by accepting the money. She said, I abhor pedophilia and any sexual abuse of children. I'm just so contrite I cannot say. Whenever I can, I will repay the money and will have nothing ever to do with Jeffrey Epstein ever again. Except later she does. Except later she writes him this letter. I'm so sorry, Jeffrey. I didn't mean to call you a pedophile. I know you're not really one, even though you went to jail for it. I know I've seen you procure young girls for my own ex-husband, so I know you are a pedophile. But I didn't mean it. Please pay my bills. You know, we know now that she did email him after she publicly said, I hate that man. He's a pedophile. I'm so contrite. I'll pay back the money and never have anything to do with him. Whatever. Sarah, just literally whatever. You know, just stop moving your mouth and start moving your feet towards a job. Get a job. Pay your bills. Stop asking other people to cover for you. We'll have to keep going tomorrow. But the thing that bothers me so much about Sarah is that her colossal mistakes are always somebody else's problem. I know I can't pay my bills. I know I keep spending money in wild ways that don't make any sense. But if you'll just pay this bill one more time. It's like, of course she's trading access to the royals. That's all she has to barter, you know? Yeah, they caught it on tape one time. Literally, this is how she's moved through the world. How do you think she's gotten all that she has? Now, publicly, you know, she is a royal, so she can be like, I'm Duchess of so-and-so, and the Americans eat that up. But all this other, all this money from all these people that, you know, aren't giving her a spot on Oprah's couch or whatever, but all the underhanded deals with all these rich people from all over the world, why are they fussing with her? Why? Because she's a royal. Or was a royal, or is next to royalty now. It's close enough that she can promise access to them. That's the, to suggest at the time at News of the World was her only time that she's ever done this. Of course, that's all she's done. And that's all Andrew's doing, because no one knows what he's up to. There's zero accountability for what he's doing, flitting all over the world. You know, he's using who he is to access what he wants, to have a grand old time. He's a sex addict. He's a fiend. See now why it feels like, and this is my last thing I'll say because I know we have to go, but I feel like lately William has this ebbing anger to him. Not outrageous or anything like that, but he's just very I feel like he's just really sick of taking it. I feel like he's really sick of knowing what's going on and kind of having to sit back and wait his turn to sort the mess. And I feel like if you were him, who really takes pride in the job and takes pride in the monarchy and wants to do it right, the way you've always believed they were doing it, but now we realize that they never were. And some of us, you know, were more clued in than others. I mean, from my vantage point, all the way across the ocean, what was I really supposed to know? So, I mean, I kind of always bought the idea that this was a establishment that was above board, and there was a couple of one-off situations, a couple of messy individuals, but the lengths to which they're going to cover for this, and then constantly never being accountable. If I ask you a question about what Andrew's doing, you better be ready to answer, right? And none of this well, I'm just not going to give you the list of people, who he's working with, or who's on his committee, or exactly what he's doing, or what guidelines he has to follow. None of that. None of that's your business. Actually, it is our business. If I were part of the British Isles, it is our business because we paid for that. I need detailed receipts, you know? That's my money he's using. That's how I'd feel. Anyway, these two. I hope the palace feels humiliated by this book. I can see now why they didn't want him to write it. I hope that the author of this book, Andrew Lowney, humiliated the palace as much as they were afraid of being humiliated. They ought to be at this point. Time and time again, they lost opportunities to save themselves and just covered the lies and covered the lies and covered the lies. And at what point are you now implicitly involved in all the scandal? You might as well have said, that's fine, Sarah, you go ahead and do you. But we're not going to say anything about it. We're just going to keep lying for you, you and your clown husband, you know, your clown daughters. We're not going to say anything. You do you. All right, we will continue this story tomorrow, the next day, and the next, and then, of course, the Friday News Roundup. I'll see you then, and I hope if you are in America and you have the day off that you are having a lovely time today. See you soon. Bye.